All aboard this reggae production walkthrough tutorial for Zulu Bob Old Pirates. Now boarding. This bass line is where it all started. I had this bass line in my head for weeks before I sat down and produced this tune. Actually, there was another tune that had this combo that I really liked, which is the deep sub bass with these kind of plinky high-end piano sounds, which you can hear right here. This is really what started the whole thing. The combination of these two sounds. The high-end reverb piano with the sub bass. Okay, let's look at the bass for a second. You can see actually there are two different bass sounds going on at the same time here. The MIDI notes are exactly the same, but it's two different sounds, and that's really for the benefit of the bass sound overall, but really so that you can hear it on phone speakers versus decent headphones. You at home, if you're listening to this, you should have a decent pair of headphones or be listening on good speakers, so that you can really hear the difference in all these things. But basically, there's a high bass and a low bass. The high bass sound is like an Ableton stock, like electric bass sound, which is a bit too cheesy if you use it on its own, but kind of blended into taste with another bass, it sounds really good and brings out a lot of the definition on the high end. So here's the sub bass. Which is actually another Ableton stock plugin, the hip hop sub bass. I use this all the time, sounds really good. I have the high end rolled off at around 300 here. That's through a saturator and a compressor, and of course sidechain to the kick drum. The other bass that I'm running here, this is the like electric bass sound. And you'll see a completely different EQ on it. I've got a low shelf. That's probably about 100 at 115, so you're really only hearing mostly mids on this. Again, saturated, compressed, and sidechain to the kick drum. And this is what they sound like together. Bo-bo. I will let that play for a second with the drums, actually. So the drums are a pretty simple pattern. It's kind of I guess a classic kind of new roots vibe. Kicks on 1 and 3, snares on 2 and 4. And I played in the hi-hat pattern there. There's also this synth tom sound, which is playing some like little fills throughout. I think that's only playing on the choruses, yeah. Separately from that, I have these drum fills. Which are from sample packs. So you can see, actually, I'm running a few different reverbs on the session as a whole. One of them is specifically for the drums. So basically my 3 reverbs are like this. I have one which is my main reverb, or the room reverb, if you want to call it that. I have another one which is a stereo spring, which I'll talk about in a second. And this one for the drums is from Convolution, but it's a plate reverb, 2 seconds, which is really short. I have the lows rolled way off on this, and highs shelved down a little bit. So you're mostly hearing the mids on that. But this, I do run some other things through it, but this reverb is specifically for the drums. Some things, especially a snare and sometimes the hi-hats, I really don't like the sound when it rings out too long, so I'll usually put some of the room reverb on there, but I'm very often these days running a separate reverb just for the bass, just for the drum sounds. So you can see my the crashes and everything are run through the main room reverb, so those ring out a bit longer, but the whole kit is run through this plate reverb. Bring the bass back in. One thing I didn't mention for the drums is these dropout sections. So what I did for the dropout sections is actually kind of cool. Basically, actually, when this was being recorded, so as I said, the vocals were done by Zulu Bob. He was in Beijing at the time, being recorded by an amazing producer called General Huge. And when they were doing the actual recording, General Huge was actually kind of pulling the fader out on some of these parts so that the vocals would really cut through on certain parts, doing dropouts. Of course, that's something we do as a DJ all the time. If you're backing up a vocalist, especially in a dance hall style, you could do the bump, dump, 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 just kind of throwing the faders up and down to give the, to pull the rhythm out and give the vocals a chance to shine through. So General Huge was doing that a little bit in the session to kind of create these dropout spots. But when I was producing it, I didn't necessarily like the full dropout. I thought it felt a bit empty. And of course, trying to stay on the kind of underwater theme that I had going, the at sea theme, if you will. I wanted to make the drums sound like they were underwater for this part. So basically what I did was I made a resampling track, which is basically bouncing anything that's playing in Ableton down to one single track. So I soloed the drums, which you already heard, and bounced those down into one track. Then in here I cut it up so that I could do clip gains on it, so that I could make certain things pump out a bit harder, and pull away some other parts there. And I ran a lot of effects on this section. So first thing for this dropout specifically, let me play it again with the drums so that you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the main part. And this dropout, and then it goes back into the regular drums. So for this dropout section, the effects I'm running are a tape emulator, saturation that is pushed to the max on the drive, then erosion, which is basically a bit of a distortion on it, that's running through a flanger. I have this crazy EQ on it, which rolls off everything on the bottom end, everything on the top end, so that the kick isn't really ringing out. You'll still kind of hear the thump of the kick, or the crack of the kick, I should say, but you're not hearing the lower sustain notes, and the all the cymbals are toned way down also. Those are disengaged, the saturator and stuff. I think I might have even resampled it with some compression and saturation and stuff on there. For this, it is off at the moment. The last thing I did for this section was basically drown it in reverb. So I talked before about the 3 different reverbs that I'm running: the room reverb, the plate reverb, and the spring reverb. I'm going full send on the room reverb, full send on the spring reverb, and a little bit to the plate with the rest of the drums. Once again, you can hear what that sounds like. Okay, let's talk about this intro, because the intro is something that's quite a bit different than anything I've done before in one of my productions. So as I said, once I had the vocals back, I knew what the theme of the tune was going to be. Old Pirates, of course, is metaphorical, but you know, I really did want to get in some of that kind of at sea sounds to it. So I added a few things. First, there's some lasers and sirens. Shout out to DJ Maze out of Hangzhou, who sampled his dub siren for me to give me some of these amazing sounds. There's a few other lasers and risers. The main thing that gave you this sound, though, is all the ship sounds. So here's a foghorn, which I tuned to the main key. So I tuned that foghorn to a C. Obviously, that's with a lot of reverb and some delay on it. And there's also these little siren tones, which add to that vibe. The main thing is the waves that you're hearing, though. Let me just play this intro for a second. So the waves that you're hearing are actually 3 separate wave sounds. I've got one all the way to the left, one all the way to the right. Those are different waves, and then one in the middle, which is providing the high end there, the like the bird chirps in some of the whooshes and stuff like that. So just the waves sound like this. Like I said, different left and right, so you really hear the space of it. And that is it for the intro. Let's play that again. Okay, let's take a look at the rhythm section for a second. There's quite a few different parts going on here. I'll play that for you from the intro. So one thing is I have this kind of 8-bit kind of synth sound going on. You can see the auto filter down here at the bottom, which is basically automated to the cutoff frequency, so that it kind of fades in and out while you're listening to it. That happens on the choruses, and that same sound is the signifier for the intro. We've also got some pretty standard skank, the piano bang there, that is matched with the guitar. Also, along with that, there's an organ bubble. So the organ I'm using here, let me unfreeze this for a second. The organ I'm using here is basically a B3 emulator. called Collab 3. It's really good. I really like it for reggae stuff. The most important thing is that it has these tines that you can draw in and out to affect which area of the sound you're playing with. But especially with the chorus on and the rotary on it, you can get some really good sounds out of it. That is a free plugin. One downside to it, like I said, it's got a really awesome sound. I use it quite a bit. One downside to it is it uses a lot of CPU. In this case, I have 3 instances of it running, so I keep it frozen when not in use. Alright, so the organ is doing a few different things here. I have one part that's on the bubble there, and another part that's just for the verses, and for the intro that's these held out chords. And you can see there's a auto pan going on in the background there, so that it's kind of switching between left and right throughout. What else do we have in the rhythm here? This sticky guitar sound. So this is actually one of my favorite sounds in the Ableton stock audio plugins. It's in like it came with Ableton in the kind of guitar and bass pack or whatever. It's called Guitar Mute, and I think it sounds really good. I use it on pretty much everything I produce. This is running through a Convolution Reverb, the stereo spring on Convolution. That sound specifically, the guitar mute doing the sticky line run through the stereo spring is just my absolute favorite. So you can hear that. Actually, this one is a bit more varied. And I think that's it for the rhythm parts. So you can hear the kind of plinky piano sound plays back and forth with the with that 8-bit sweep that's going on. That's only in the choruses. And then when it switches to the verse, things simplify a little bit. The organ goes to the held chords. The sticky guitar is a bit more simple. The piano and guitar bang going throughout. Okay, so the only thing left that I haven't talked about is the vocals. So basically the vocals were in 3 different tracks. There was the main track, there was 2 background tracks. So I'll show you the mains for a second.
Teeth them a teeth, and I lie to them teeth.
That's in the verse. So it's important to note that none of these vocals were tuned. I know I hear a lot of people on both sides, either saying that they always tune vocals or kind of poo-pooing tuning vocals, saying, this is the problem with society these days is tuned vocals. Really, I look at vocal tuning as a producer choice. There are times that I do it, and there are times that I don't do it. And it's not very often. Let me say it like this. If your vocals are out of tune, then you need to sing them again. So I don't usually use tuning Melodyne as like actual repairing, repairing vocal tracks. I mean, I have obviously, but not always the way that I use it. And especially if you have stacked vocals, then you really need to make a decision whether it's going to be tuned or not. So in some cases, let's say I have a stack of vocals that are all in the same pitch, like maybe somebody doubled the vocals, or they're doing ad libs or something, and everything's on the same pitch. You might tune the main vocals so that it sounds bright and polished and perfect there, and leave the backgrounds untuned. Those slight variations in the pitch will really thicken everything up. So if you have like group vocals that are all in the same pitch, you could leave it untuned to really make it sound wider, make it sound like a larger group that's singing, or you'll really hear the difference in the definition in those. On the other hand, if you have if your backgrounds are harmonies, like a vocal stack, all different harmonies, that's something that you might want to tune so that those are perfectly locked in. Again, it's I think of it almost like adding reverb, or adding compression. It's not really a way to fix vocals. It's more a way to polish the sound. Do I want this to be kind of bright and perfect and everything like that, or do I want it a bit more natural sounding? So I really look at it like a producer, not like a tool to fix things. So in this case, all the vocals are untuned, and I'll let you look at my vocal chain here a little bit. So first I'm running a gate. This is really, this gate is really to save me a lot of the chopping in the vocal track. So depending on how it's recorded, you might be able to use a gain or not, a gate or not. Basically, a gate will take a threshold and say everything below this threshold is muted, or just coming in a little bit. And the main thing that I think about is the breaths, or the mic control. So if the singer, there are vocal tracks where I chop everything up. I'm automating the like this. I'm automating the fade on every single line that they're singing, and I'm taking breaths and reducing the volume or the clip gain of those breaths so that everything sounds exactly the way I want it to. You can also do that with a gain. It depends on how it's recorded. It doesn't always work. Again, these are different settings for every single track that you produce, but in this case, I have a gate so that it's muting everything except for like 3 decibels of the sound. So basically, if the singer does a breath or something and that breath is below the threshold, it will play just a little bit of it. So you'll hear the breath, but it won't be at the same volume as everything else that's playing. You really need to be able to dial in those gate settings with the threshold and the return and the floor and the release time and all those things. If it doesn't work out, then you might need to do this with fades and clip gain and chopping up the vocals and taking sections out, specifically like the space in between words or the space in between lines. After that, I have basically this is like my basic vocal chain that I run on every single vocal track that I get. So basically it's my template that I start with for vocals, an EQ that just rolls off some of the low end below 100 that you don't need to hear. I have a de-esser on it and a Rough Rider compressor. This is on the just a bit off the top preset, so I'm not really doing a lot of leveling or anything with that compressor, just bringing some of the main peaks down so I can have it a bit more level as I'm doing more compression later down the chain. So basically every vocal track that I run has these 3 things on it. For this one in particular, I have a bit of a shelf On the low mids there, I have a pretty strong boost around 1K, and then another strong boost on the high end of the vocals. Again, this is not an EQ setting that you should copy for other songs. This is specific to this song. I know there are a lot of people who will do like the the hunt and peck, or the kind of picking specific frequencies to get rid of in a track, kind of looking for frequencies that they don't like and cutting those specific frequencies. I do that sometimes for tracks. In this one, I didn't need it. So I'm basically just running this basic EQ chain on it. Then that's running through a compressor. That's the Ableton Glue compressor. There's a bit of saturation on this, and I'm running CLA vocals, basically using another EQ for the CLA vocals. I have this dialed in with the low end and the high end, and yet another compressor here within that plugin. So on this chain, I'm running 3 different compressors. I have the Rough Rider, which is a free plugin, doing just a bit off the top. The Glue compressor, which is really the main compression for the vocal track, and then another one in the CLA vocals, which is the one in CLA vocals is really just it's more like an amplifier than a compressor, just to add a little push to it. For the backgrounds, once again, I'm running that same vocal chain. The EQ is a little bit different, and definitely the CLA settings are a bit different on the low end and the high end. Another compressor here. The main thing on the backgrounds is I have the slap delay, and I'm running the stereo width a little bit. So these backgrounds are panned hard left and hard right, and running the stereo width again in the CLA vocals plugin. Let's hear the vocal stack in all. Oh, and in the intro, this kind of spoken part in the intro, I'm running another EQ that's like a kind of a phone preset, cutting out the lows and highs, give you that narrator voice at the beginning. Let's hear.
I'm no fair, you don't say Zulu Bob, there.
So that's the that's just the intro part. I'll let you hear from the chorus.
All pirates back at it again. No study about no race, them not looking for no friends. Nobody are gonna save, make we unite and defend. All pirates are burning and looting once again. All pirates back at it again. Them not looking for no friends. Unite and defend. Are burning and looting once again. Thief them a thief, and I lie to them teeth. Even a blinded person can see it.
Okay, so and obviously all of this is going through 2 reverbs, not the CLA reverb. I'm not using the CLA for reverb. I do use it for the slapback delay sometimes, or the 1/8 or 1/4 delay sometimes, but in this case, the vocals are running mostly through the main reverb. That's the same reverb that a lot of the instruments in the rhythm are running through, and a little bit into the short plate reverb. Let's hear the track a little bit again with the vocals playing.
All pirates back at it again. No study about no race, them not looking for no friends. Nobody are gonna save, make we unite and defend. All pirates are burning and looting once again. All pirates back at it again. No study about no race, them not looking for no friends. Nobody are gonna save, make we unite and defend. All pirates are burning and looting once again. Thief them a thief, and I lie to them teeth. Even a blinded person can see it. Not try to hide, then I care about disguise. Too easy
So, actually, I didn't talk about the delay yet. You can see I have some delay automation on the vocals here. I'll solo that for you.
Care who them mess with like no. Careful who you step with like whoa. Bass go.
So the delay, basically, what I'm doing with the delay is I have an EQ and a flanger that's playing before the delay. So basically what it does is you're hearing the main vocal line, and then the delay is on a send. So I'm sending signal to the delay channel, and that channel is EQ'd so that the high and low end are tamped down a little bit, and it's run through a flanger, and then it goes into the delay. You can see the delay. I have the offset -10 and +10. So that basically that's in your left and right ear, so that every time it processes the delay, it's being thrown off a little bit by 10% separately in each ear. So that just increases the stereo width of it a little bit in your brain as those go off. But also, because these things are before the delay, every time something's run through the delay, it gets EQ'd more and more according to this curve, and more flangey as it goes through. So every loop of the delay, it's processing all these things again, cutting off the highs and lows through the flanger, and then separating the time a little bit in the delay. Just so that as something is repeating back, you're not hearing the same thing over and over again. It's playing with your brain a little bit.
Who them mess with like no. Careful who you step with like whoa. Bass go dog grip on the ends. Old pirates are back at it again. Old pirates back at it again. No study about no race, them not looking for no friends. Nobody I can save, make we unite and defend. Old pirates are burning and looting once again. Old pirates back at it again.
So the last thing that I didn't talk about here, on my master, I've got nothing. That's because I send all my tracks to be mastered through Nate at High Noon Audio. He's a fantastic producer, fantastic mastering engineer, and he runs everything through tape. So he prints everything to tape and then records it back off the tape for his master. He's got plenty of outboard gear, and is really, really good at what he does. So you can check him out. Other than that, I think that'll probably do it for the walkthrough. If you liked what you saw here, please like, comment, subscribe. You can go listen to this tune everywhere you listen to music: Spotify, Apple Music. If you want to buy it, you can do that on iTunes or Bandcamp. Otherwise, you just kicking it here is more than enough. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, definitely leave a comment. I reply to most of my comments these days. So if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer it for you. And let's play us out here with the final chorus of Zulu Bob, Old Pirates. Peace.
Pirates back at it again. No study about no race, them not looking for no friends. No